Hi, I'm Jake from VISIGOTH, and you are watching Belgian Jasper.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time on the channel, hit subscribe right now. For some time now, there's been a bunch of bands who bring a modern take on early 80s underground heavy metal. So much so that people are calling it the new wave of traditional heavy metal. And one of the standout bands in this new wave is VISIGOTH. The popularity of VISIGOTH is rising fast, and the band is working on their new album right now, so I sat down with singer Jake.
Jake, thank you so much for your time today. I know that you were rushing to get here. 2020, it's a crazy year in all respects. How are you and the band dealing with all of this?
It's actually pretty tough not being able to play gigs and tour. Like we had a lot of gig plans that got canceled, some of which got announced and some of which hadn't been announced yet. But it's been pretty disappointing. I think it's pretty hard for anyone who, plays music in any kind of even semi-professional capacity. But hopefully it means that the time at home is giving us some time to work on music and, hash out some of the other, non-gigging aspects of being in a band. So I guess I'll try to be grateful for that.
I know that you already were saying in interviews a whole year ago, if not longer, that, you guys were working on album number 3 already. I know there was an EP as well, but, is there anything that you can share with us when we should start expecting some new music from you guys?
Yeah, so of course, with us being stuck at home, that is kind of the goal now, is just to be working on that material. I can't give any time frames yet, but I can say, at least 2 of us have brought, full songs to the table at this point, okay. With many more in the pipeline. So it's on the way. I can't give any timelines, but it's being worked on.
All right, yeah. Awesome. I mean, being an Iron Grip artist, does that mean that you're already working on how many different special edition cassettes will be released, and if there's more than 66 this time or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, we aren't even talking about the physical formats yet, but. From my understanding, I think Metal Blade wants to do something special for this one, so there might be some kind of cool special edition. I don't know yet. I don't even like to think about that stuff till the music's done. So.
You could clearly hear the differences between your very early work and what you guys did on Conqueror, for example.
Yeah.
Is that something that you are, I talk a lot to musicians and they're always like, oh, I've showcased this part of what I can do and now I want to showcase a whole different part. Playing an instrument that might come easier than having to control your own body. Like, is working on different vocal styles or making the next album even more varied than the second was more than the first? Is that something that you're working on?
That's kind of a difficult question to answer, I guess, because and I've been very open about this in interviews, but I've never taken vocal lessons, and from a technical standpoint, I actually have no idea what I'm doing. So what I've done over time is I've tried to get myself to a point where I am singing in a style that is healthy for my voice, right? Especially touring was a bit, especially our first tour, huge wake up call for me, right? Like doing it, playing one gig a month at home is one thing, but having to sing an hour-long set of, the material that is kind of pushed to the limits of my technical ability or lack thereof 6-7 nights in a row, that's extremely fatiguing. It really made me appreciate how incredible it is that the bands that I love, I watch these guys tour for 2-3 months at a time and be able to sing every night. So I would say it's not so much that I'm intentionally trying different styles, and more that I've gotten my voice to a point where everything on Conqueror's Oath is comfortable for me, right? So I mean, there's stuff that there are moments in songs where I'm pushing to the limits of my range or
for sure,
whatever, but that album was written, I had a much better grasp on kind of how physically my body works when I'm singing. And so the vocal lines that I wrote were more comfortable, I think, overall for me than the Revenant King in general, which is why, from an objective standpoint, I think the vocal performance on the second record is just better from a singing standpoint, because it was written more with my voice in mind.
Almost every song on your second album has that very catchy part and very melodic part. If you made it easier on yourself or on your vocals, that also probably translated into songs that are just easier digestible for people to listen to and sing along to.
I actually don't think the like catchiness or anthemic quality of the songs has anything to do with the songs being more comfortable for me to sing. That's more just a byproduct of like the fact that we really, really like catchy songs. And so, especially, I think really what happened there is less to do with my singing and more to do with the fact that we intentionally wanted Conqueror's Oath to be a little less long-winded than Revenant King. Like personally, I can't sit through the Revenant King start to finish. If I were like if I try to remove myself from being in the band and just listen to the album, I get bored like halfway through. I'll be honest. Because I feel like, and not, we sort of intentionally wanted the second record to be a little more concise, direct, and we achieved the goal. Whether or not you like it is definitely a matter of taste, but it is a more to the point album.
Yes,
which was intentional. But that was a songwriting choice more than anything to do with like anybody's technical abilities. And some people loved the approach. Some people totally thought we dropped the ball. And third album, I think, will probably be somewhere a little bit more in the middle.
From beyond the mountains and stretches of the sea, dark horizons black rumble with the voice of prophecy.
Well, I mean, something that you also just like beyond catchy songs in general is clearly the NWOBHM and early 80s power metal music. There's some examples on the wall behind you. That becomes very clear when listening not just to your music and the artwork, but also to lyrics and song titles. Do your fans in general get all the Easter eggs that are hidden throughout the albums?
I'm glad you've noticed. Some people do, yeah, absolutely. Like I think the most obvious one is like Traitor's Gate, for example. But that title, the song title for that song, actually existed before I even wrote the lyrics. Just because I was on a little like Traitor's Gate kick, and it kind of had like a sinister sound, like a it's got this kind of darker sound, and that song had that kind of vibe. So it was like the working title, but the working title just kind of stuck. And I just thought it'd be fun, like for people who are aware of that or like that band, to like kind of see what they did there.
Fly to the traitor's gate. I am the reaper that rides on the cold winds of hate.
But yeah, I do like to hide Easter eggs in our lyrics often, so you can like look out for those.
Yeah, won't give too many things away in this so that people can go on their own egg hunt. Where does that passion come from for you and all the band? Because I'm gonna go out on a limb here that when the NWOBHM was raging, you guys were not around just yet. So how did you get into that music? What pulls you so much to that era of metal?
Well, besides the fact that like a lot of those albums are just great rock and roll records with fantastic songwriting and interesting choruses, and I mean, it was really the birth of a lot of what it was the birth of a lot of what metal became coming out of that. I mean, without the new wave of British heavy metal, we wouldn't even have like extreme metal genres like black metal, for example, wouldn't exist, right? Without the new wave of British heavy metal. So I think as anyone's becoming a little, like digging deeper than the big obvious, like the Bay Area thrash bands and your Maiden, Priest, Motorhead, the sort of entry-level, fantastic, great bands, but I'll say entry-level just because they're very available, right? Like anyone can know those bands exist. But as you start to dig a little bit into the, more subterranean stratas of metal music, the new wave of British heavy metal becomes very apparent that this is something really important that you need to research and dig into and understand.
Open the traitor's gate, so fear my return. I am the hammer of fate.
I found it very inspiring, just in general. Everything from like the artworks to the ways the bands presented themselves, the band photos, and it just became an obsession because it helps you realize there's this whole world of metal underneath, and that's something most of us are discovering probably in high school. And so it just becomes pretty mind-blowing, like how much there is to explore there.
Any anthem that you recently discovered on a late night going down a YouTube hole, watching obscure metal after obscure metal song that you recently discovered that we should know of?
I actually only very recently started. I'm a little bit of a troglodyte when it comes to the internet stuff, social media stuff. Anyone who knows me really well, if they even hear this part, is probably laughing already because I'm like notoriously bad at keeping up with my social media. But I only recently discovered the whole using YouTube to rabbit hole into obscure corners of music. I never did that up until very, very recently.
Okay.
There's this song I've had stuck in my head for weeks on end now. It's called King of the Sea by this band called Jackwave.
I'm the king of the sea, and I'm sailing through the ocean of life.
It was spoon-fed to me by YouTube, so I'm not cool guy for knowing about this.
But that's how it. I mean, at the end of the day, we should all be happy that there are channels like that, because it's not that you can easily find this kind of stuff in secondhand, vinyl collections.
Yeah, and I actually really appreciate that there's someone out there doing the work of hunting down these ridiculously obscure cobweb crusted gems and putting them on YouTube so we can hear these songs we wouldn't hear otherwise. A band that really benefited from that obviously is Randy from Denmark, right?
Oh yeah. The Beast.
Because they had that the Beast 7-inch, which is very difficult to find, and I know most people would not have heard that band without it hitting YouTube, and it kind of blew up, which is good for them because that anthology that came out because of the sudden resurgence in interest, that anthology is so good. There's so many awesome songs beyond the Beast EP, Razor's Edge and Hideaway, and that whole anthology is just so awesome.
People that are passionate about heavy metal music, the one thing that unites us all, doesn't matter what kind of heavy metal we like, we have this fanatical activism of I need to share this with you. Let me show you how great this is.
Oh yeah.
And Visigoth has done that also already twice now, with Battle Cry with Omen and Necropolis from Manila Road.
Inside a dream, but my mind tells me I'm lost in Necropolis.
Have you guys ever thought of just doing a full-blown cover album with only these old songs?
We've never talked about it. I know the guys well enough to know that would never happen.
Okay.
But I am a big fan. I love doing covers. So especially live, they're always fun because especially if you have people in the audience who don't like your band or have never heard your band. We've definitely played audiences where you can see the dudes in the back that just think we're a bunch of posers and are just grumpy that we're on stage, and then we'll play a cover, and then maybe a couple of those guys will be okay, and then they'll start getting into it.
I have seen your cities burning, I have found your daughters yearning for the peace you had before the times of war.
Now that we're kind of lost in history anyway, who in the band is the history freak that came up with the name Visigoth?
Oh, that was me. I came up with the name. I actually came up with a whole bunch of names when we were naming the band. I wrote a whole list. And then we just started going down the list and metal archiving all the names to make sure that those band names weren't already taken. Because personal pet peeve of mine. I think it's obnoxious when bands pick names that are obviously already taken. Which
sure.
it just kind of shows a lack of like giving a shit, and you should care. And B, you shoot yourself in the foot if there's already a band out there. You're suddenly competing for searchability and just people being able to even find that you exist or differentiating. There was a 70s punk band called the Visigoths, plural, and Visigoth was the first one we got to that wasn't already a band, and it's one word, which is really nice, and it's a barbarian tribe, so it fits in with the general overall metal aesthetic.
I was just about to ask you, how often do you have to explain to people what a Visigoth is?
Nearly every interview. Unless we're in Spain or being interviewed by a Spanish publication, then of course they know exactly who the Visigoths are, and they're really excited about it.
Through the frost rhymes, foothills they rode, banners as black as their souls.
So were you aware that that there is a Belgian heavy metal band called Ostrogoth? The other kinds of goth?
Yeah, so actually, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't know they existed before we were naming Visigoth, was actually that list I told you about. Ostrogoth was right above Visigoth in names that I wanted to call the band, and I discovered Ostrogoth by searching them and finding that they existed because we were going to name our band that. One of the coolest things ever for me was we played a German festival in Germany somewhere, and I was wearing an Ostrogoth t-shirt of Ecstasy and Danger, and somehow Ostrogoth like saw it, and they posted on their Facebook page, they posted Visigoth wears Ostrogoth and shared it to their page, and I was like, oh dude, Ostrogoth saw this. This is so cool. They gave us a little shout out.
We were talking earlier about like how the year's been, and there's a lot of stuff you have to deal with this year, not just as an artist, but every human being, really. Now, I would not describe Visigoth whatsoever as a political band in any way. I think you guys are
definitely not
trying to bring escapism, if anything, from whatever's going on. That being said, everything these days is being politicized. You guys put on some clear messages on your social media, and I thought that was, I want to applaud that. I thought that was very well done, where, you had messages like, hey, keep your social distancing, be safe, what have you. Used the poster of the exterminator. I thought that was a fun touch as well. Is that something that, unfortunately, this day and age on social you get backlash for?
So we didn't get backlash for it, which I'm kind of surprised we didn't. I decided to do I did like a live Q&A on our Facebook page. I posted a post about I made some jokes about social distancing and keeping your social distance, and we've seen other bands or other public entities now, it somehow this whole culture of not believing the pandemic's happening for whatever reason started to crop up. We avoided any backlash, fortunately. I guess because our fans, for the most part, are smart people who realize that social. Oh, and by the way, for additional context, I've only recently kind of started talking about this in interviews. I don't know why I was uncomfortable talking about it in the past, but I have multiple sclerosis, so that's an autoimmune condition, right? So I'm immunocompromised, so I've just no patience for this whole pandemic hoax crap. So this is probably you're fortunate here. This is probably the most political I've ever gotten in an interview, and I'll leave it at that. But
sure.
Yeah, the social distancing thing, the pandemic thing, it's close to my heart because of I'm a very high risk category. So I don't mind doubling down on that. And if anyone was upset by it, I don't care.
Jake, I just want to say thank you for your time today. I know that we're all, eagerly waiting for new material, and that, right now we can enjoy ourselves with listening to the existing albums and then just digging in those black holes in YouTube and discovering new songs, and then hoping that you guys have a live cover version ready of that favorite song next time that you come to Toronto. That would be amazing.
Speaking of Canadian, if you want my recommendation for like kind of lesser known thinking that I find influential, and I've been actually listening to this album for a very long time, and it's a song I would like to cover, which I haven't even talked to guys about this, so sorry I'm jumping the shark here and it'll probably not happen, but there's this great Canadian band called Black Knight, and there's a song called Dead of Night that is just like the best chorus. The chorus is so good, so catchy, awesome vocalist. That's my Canadian metal like cover dream that I would like to cover one day if we can. But if we don't, go listen to it. It's great.
By steel, by silver, I flame like a wolf in the night. By steel, by silver.
Awesome. Well, Jake, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, your openness and your energy. I've got a lot of good new songs to listen to, and I look forward to hearing new material.
Sounds great, man. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.